They called him the dumb delivery boy the moment he walked through the sleek glass doors of Halton Logistics. Kareem, barely 18, wore a faded orange uniform that clung to his wiry frame, a baseball cap pulled low over eyes that noticed everything. He wasn't dumb, just quiet. The kind of quiet that made people think he had nothing to say. Most didn't even remember his name. They laughed when he asked where the break room was on his first day, smirked when he fumbled with the digital scanner, and whispered cruel jokes when he got lost on a multi-stop route early on. "There goes the dumb delivery boy again," they'd say, chuckling over overpriced coffee in the executive lounge. But Kareem never flinched. He had grown up in a world that didn't hand out respect. It made you earn it. His mother worked double shifts as a nurse assistant, his little brother shared his mattress, and rent was always due 2 days before they had enough. This job wasn't his dream, it was his way out. Every day, Kareem delivered packages across the city, paper files, branded swag, corporate gifts, and with each stop, he paid attention. While others tuned out during deliveries, he tuned in. He noticed the companies that had messy loading docks, the ones with broken barcode systems, the offices where people worked late, but looked miserable. He saw the supply chain from the inside, inefficiencies, bad decisions, systems held together with duct tape and luck. No one thought the delivery boy was watching, so they spoke freely around him, treated him like furniture, like air. But Kareem remembered it all. At night after his shift, he'd sit at his rickety desk in the corner of his family's apartment, poring over YouTube tutorials on warehouse optimization, watching TED Talks on startups, even taking free online courses under a fake name. He didn't want anyone from work to know he was studying business strategy while they slept. Kareem kept a notebook filled with ideas, streamlined routing methods, employee-led feedback systems, hybrid gig driver models that offered both flexibility and stability. He was building something in silence. He knew people laughed behind his back. He heard it in the halls, saw it in their eyes, but what they didn't know was that Kareem had a plan. He wasn't just delivering boxes. He was delivering himself a future. And one day, they'd all remember the dumb delivery boy who watched, waited, and outworked them all. Kareem's delivery routes took him through every inch of the city, from towering skyscrapers to back alley startups, industrial zones to glass-walled tech firms buzzing with energy. While most drivers saw the job as a dead end, Kareem treated it like a university on wheels. Every delivery was a case study. He learned to read company culture in minutes, how receptionists spoke to couriers, how managers treated assistants, how efficient or chaotic loading docks were. He paid attention to detail, what kind of inventory tracking they used, how long packages sat on receiving shelves, how often shipments got rerouted due to errors. Other drivers blasted music or complained about the long hours. Kareem drove in silence, thinking, listening, calculating. His phone was full of photos, blurred shots of broken scanners, stacked boxes blocking fire exits, timestamps that didn't match manifests. He wasn't collecting evidence, he was collecting insight. One afternoon, he noticed a pattern. Halton's main warehouse was routing deliveries to a secondary hub for no clear reason, adding hours and cost to each shipment. Kareem mentioned it casually to a floor supervisor. "Hey, isn't it weird that we're going east just to go west again?" The supervisor barely looked up from his clipboard. "Stick to your job, Kareem. We got people for logistics." That phrase, people for logistics, replayed in his head all evening. Kareem was logistics. He lived it every day. If they couldn't see that, it meant they were blind or too arrogant to notice. Kareem started designing solutions, not for praise or promotion, but for preparation. He sketched out optimized routes in his notebook, rewrote the delivery flow using software trial tools, and ran time simulations to prove his theories. He even ran mock dispatch models, shaving off minutes and costs with each test. He wasn't a manager, but he understood the system better than those sitting behind glass walls. Still, every time he tried to speak up, he was waved off. "You're just the driver. Leave that to corporate. Don't overthink it." The rejections didn't break him, they fueled him. The more they underestimated him, the harder he worked. He began noticing deeper flaws, How poorly drivers were trained, how outdated the tracking software was, how toxic the company culture had become. Halton was coasting on reputation, not innovation. And Kareem realized something important: legacy businesses were vulnerable. They moved slowly, resisted change, and dismissed ideas from the ground up. That was his edge. Back home, he mapped out a plan, something leaner, smarter, built on respect and efficiency, not a traditional logistics firm, but a platform powered by real-time data, where workers were partners, not pawns. Kareem didn't have funding or degrees, but he had something no MBA could teach: insider knowledge and street-smart grit. While they slept comfortably in their air-conditioned offices, he worked under flickering lights, dreaming of a company where no one would ever be called dumb for wearing a uniform. Kareem's break came not through chance, but through persistence disguised as politeness. One of his regular delivery stops was a mid-sized tech startup run by a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Alina Khan. She was different. Unlike the executives who barely offered a nod, Alina always acknowledged him, sometimes even asking how his day was. Kareem, cautious but curious, took his time during each delivery, never lingering too long, but always offering help beyond the job. He carried heavy boxes inside without being asked, kept his eyes open for missing labels, and once pointed out that their back-end translock wasn't working. She noticed. One rainy Tuesday, as she scribbled her signature on his delivery log, he finally took a deep breath and asked, "Can I show you something I've been working on?" Alina raised a brow, intrigued more than annoyed. "What kind of something?" "A logistics platform. Faster routes. Smarter driver tools. Real-time updates with driver input built in." He paused. Something that could fix what companies like Halton keep getting wrong? Alina didn't laugh. Instead, she leaned back and studied him. "You built a platform?" "I built the idea. I've tested parts of it in spreadsheets and free apps. I have the plan, just not the capital." She considered him for a moment, then said something that would change his life. "Send me a pitch deck. 48 hours. She didn't wait for a reply before heading back to her office, leaving Kareem standing in the lobby, stunned. He barely slept that night. Using every free tool he could find, Kareem designed a basic brand logo, mapped out his idea in slides, used AI to clean up his language, and structured a clear plan. Rapid Route, a logistics tech startup powered by real-time data and driven by on-the-ground experience. He outlined cost-saving methods, automation strategies, and how he'd integrate driver feedback directly into routing algorithms. He explained how Halton's top-down model failed its own workforce, and how Rapid Route would succeed by flipping the structure. When he sent the pitch, his hands were shaking. Alina responded within 12 hours. "Let's talk," she wrote. One conversation turned into 3. She introduced him to an angel investor group she was part of. They didn't see a dumb delivery boy. They saw a scrappy founder with lived experience, uncommon insight, and a laser-focused mission. Within a month, Kareem had secured a small seed fund, just enough to launch a pilot. He rented a cheap office above a laundromat, hired 2 other ex-drivers who shared his hunger, and officially registered Rapid Route. He didn't tell anyone at Halton he was leaving. He walked out on his last day with a smile, his final box delivered, his uniform folded neatly in the break room. They wouldn't notice his absence, at least not yet, but soon they'd feel it. The boy they had mocked was building the future beneath their feet. Rapid Route started with 3 people, 2 secondhand laptops, and a single goal: outsmart the giants by listening to the ground. Kareem didn't hire managers with suits and buzzwords. He hired hustlers, former delivery drivers, warehouse workers, people who'd been laid off, overlooked, or dismissed. He built a culture of inclusion where every idea was heard and no one was too small to be seen. Their office walls were bare, their chairs mismatched, but the energy inside pulsed like a growing storm. While Halton sat in meetings debating logistics charts, Kareem's team was on the streets, testing their app live with real drivers. Each route they optimized, each bug they fixed, every customer they retained, it was all proof that the old ways were dying and something leaner, smarter was rising. Word started to spread. First, It was small businesses that couldn't afford Halton's bloated pricing. Then, mid-tier clients joined in, charmed by Rapid Route's quick turnarounds and real-time transparency. Kareem made sure his platform empowered clients. Live GPS tracking, instant reroute requests, full delivery feedback in seconds. Meanwhile, he paid his drivers better than Halton ever had and offered partial benefits by partnering with local co-ops. Within 18 months, Rapid Route was swallowing up entire zip codes. Halton Logistics noticed and panicked. They sent out memos, cut prices, tried to mirror Rapid Route's tech, but it was all too slow. They didn't understand that what made Rapid Route work wasn't just software, it was trust, hustle, and a founder who had lived every mile his drivers traveled. A niche tech journal broke the story, from delivery boy to disruptor, how Rapid Route is unraveling Halton Logistics. Kareem didn't care for fame, but investors noticed. He received offers from venture capitalists who had once ignored him, now begging to get in before his Series A round. He took only what he needed. Rapid Route expanded to 3 cities, and a 4th was on the map. Inside Halton, panic turned to disarray. Their CEO, the same man who once laughed at Kareem's delayed route, now faced declining revenue, fleeing clients, and whispers from aboard. Then the opportunity came. Halton, bloated and burdened by outdated systems, needed a bailout. Kareem's phone rang. An investment firm offered him a chance to bid on Halton's failing assets. He didn't hesitate. The same building where he once delivered boxes was now up for grabs. With Rapid Route thriving, Kareem made his move not out of revenge, but because he saw potential buried beneath bureaucracy. He didn't want to destroy Halton. He wanted to resurrect what it could have been. And the only way to do that was to own it. The boardroom at Halton Logistics had once felt like a fortress, glass walls, polished wood, and a skyline view that screamed power. But now it was filled with tension, silence, and faces that had once smirked at the boy in the orange uniform. Kareem stepped inside wearing a crisp navy suit, confidence in his stride and clarity in his eyes. He wasn't there to prove anything, he was the proof. Across from him sat the CEO, Michael Lorne, the same man who once barked at Kareem for being 5 minutes late, the same man who had chuckled, "Stick to deliveries, kid," without knowing the kid would one day own the company. Michael gave a forced smile, trying to reclaim control. "So, you're the founder of Rapid Route?" he asked, though he already knew. "Impressive little startup you've built." Kareem met his gaze calmly. "Thank you. It's about to get a lot bigger." The deal had been negotiated in the background for weeks, and now all that remained were signatures. Halton's market value had plummeted. Rapid Route, streamlined and profitable, had become the logical buyer. Most of Halton's board members sat stiffly, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of selling to someone they had once treated as invisible. Some tried to soften their stance with compliments. "You always seemed sharp," one muttered. Another said, "You've really made something of yourself, Kareem." But he didn't need their validation. He didn't forget how they ignored his ideas, overlooked his effort, mocked his ambition. Still, this wasn't about revenge. It was about purpose. "I'm not here to save you," Kareem said as the silence thickened. "I'm here to save what Halton could have been. The people who kept it running, the drivers, the warehouse teams, the late shift staff, they're the ones I'm here for. They built this company while you collected bonuses for their sweat." No one responded. Not with words, at least. The contracts were signed without resistance. Kareem officially acquired Halton Logistics. A few board members resigned on the spot. Michael Lorne, pale and stunned, stood and extended his hand. "No hard feelings, right?" Kareem shook it without flinching. "None. Just lessons." And with that he walked out. No smirk, no gloating, just closure. Later that week, Kareem visited Halton's main warehouse, where he once clocked in before sunrise. Workers looked up, confused at first, until someone whispered, "That's the kid they used to call the dumb delivery boy." But now he wasn't wearing orange. He wore the company's new logo, Rapid Route, stitched onto his blazer. He addressed the workers personally, promised transparency, better pay, dignity. The same hands that once held tape guns now clapped for him with pride. As he stood in the heart of the company he now owned, Kareem thought back to every night he had spent scribbling ideas by candlelight, every insult swallowed in silence, every locked door he refused to walk away from. They had called him the dumb delivery boy. Now they called him boss.